There are only 2 places left in the world where orangutans live. Coming to Borneo, we got a chance to see the oldest rainforest of the world and one of the most endangered and fascinating animals of planet Earth. Why are orangutans actually so fascinating? Are they somehow important for us? And what's the actual issue? Is it what I always heard of, or is there more to it? And what actually happens if orangutans go extinct? Visiting a sanctuary or a rehabilitation center seemed like the best thing to do. It is almost guaranteed to see them, and you even learn something while supporting a facility which essentially is helping them. And honestly, it was, even now when I watch this footage back, just wow. Yet after our visit, I wasn't so sure anymore. I ended up feeling like one more clueless, ignorant tourist. That experience did not let go of me. I spent the last weeks with hours and days of research, going through articles, scientific papers, reports, and searching for interview partners. During that process, it turned out what we've always considered a problem is not really it, at least not in a way we think it is. It also turned out that I had absolutely no clue how much the conclusion of this research would get to me. This was the first thing we saw, even before walking through the entrance gate. Orangutans belong to the family of great apes, just like we do. We also share 97% of the same DNA, and actually are similar in a lot of ways. The word orangutan even translates to person of the forest. Some 100,000 years ago, orangutans could still be found across the mainland of Southeast Asia. Today, they only live on the islands of Borneo and Sumatra. Amongst the great apes, they are the only species primarily living in trees, making them the largest arboreal animal of the planet, with males growing 2 to 3 times bigger than females and weighing up to 100 kilograms. Not only are they big, but also quite intelligent. Most of their time awake they spend with traveling through the trees, searching for a wide variety of foods to make up for all that energy their body and brains consume. Their diet is mostly plant-based, but also includes insects and on rare occasions small animals. But what they eat in particular depends on where they live. Their habitat. Orangutans are kind of the introverts, that's how I refer to it. They live in comparatively low density and are considered semi-social, which doesn't make them anti-social. It rather seems they are a little bit more complicated, just like us sometimes. And even though they spend most of their time alone, they occasionally come together and learn from each other, which goes as far as developing culture. Essentially meaning certain groups of orangutans do things others don't do, like making umbrellas out of leaves, using tools, different methods to build a nest, to communicate, or even the usage of medicine. All their unique features and skills, as well as their ability to learn and adapt, protect them from the few natural enemies they have. Unfortunately, natural enemies have not been the only threat throughout the last centuries. Between 1999 and 2015, the population of orangutans in Borneo has declined by 50%. Approximately 100,000 to 150,000 individuals were lost in just 16 years. And here we stand, as one of them is just about to appear in front of us. was a moment, it's hard to describe. Just shortly before he was about to disappear, the massive male stood up, straight, walking on two legs. And I don't know how this looks to you, but I could not but think that it looked very human. I think it was also about that time I started questioning, why are they even here and not out there? That's what most people think, and while it definitely is part of the problem, there is more to it. When people, politicians, NGOs and media claim palm oil is the problem, what they actually mean is habitat loss. The conversion and destruction of the rainforest for commercial and economic reasons. But palm oil is just one of the drivers for deforestation. Additionally, forest fires, agriculture, legal and illegal logging, mining and the development of infrastructure encourages local economy to clear the land, adding fuel to the vicious cycle of carbon emissions and climate change. Luckily, Borneo has quite a lot of protected areas. Unfortunately, most of the orangutans seem to live outside of those. But even if they would live inside protected areas, it might not help. Recent studies found the main reason for population decline actually may not be deforestation, but something else. During our visit, we heard a lot about what the facility does to protect and rehabilitate orangutans. They feed them, but they don't feed them enough, encouraging them to search on their own. Visiting times are very strict, keeping human contact rather low and frequent. The orangutans are free to leave at any time. There are no fenced areas. And that's a lot of positives here. But it's not that easy.
The more they are being exposed by captive life, the more difficult for them to go back to the wild, because they enjoy to live in a human area. Everything is provided, they don't need to go anywhere to find food and so on.
Orangutans need trees to nest in. It is where they sleep, safely protected from predators. To find a huge variety of foods, they need a big area. Actually, they need multiple areas. One reason is genetic diversity, more or less the opposite of inbreeding. The second reason has more to do with why they are important for us.
There is a very, very important reason why the orangutan should be preserved, and it is a biodiversity reason.
But what they probably need the most is time. Very similar to humans, orangutans go through a long time of pregnancy. And also, very similar to humans, the babies need the care of their mother to survive. It takes around 6 to 7 years before mother and infant part and before a new offspring may be born. And it is this slow reproduction process that makes the whole situation so difficult. Declining population in this case does not only mean less individuals, it actually means even lower and slower reproduction rates, and with that, a very long time for recovery as a species. Which is where conservation comes in. Different organizations and projects all across Borneo, Sumatra, and even in faraway countries all over the world work to save, rescue and protect orangutans. Some of those specialize in rehabilitating and releasing them back into the wild. If you look for NGOs and projects protecting and rehabilitating orangutans in Borneo, you'll find a lot. If you're looking for someone to have an actual interview and ask critical questions, it's a whole different story. Just when we were about to leave the center, we saw a group of orangutans traveling through the trees. Most of them rather avoid humans, and we were also told to avoid them. You have to know, orangutans are 4 to 6 times as strong as a human. Not really sure if anyone would like to put this to the test. Just wouldn't be smart, right? But yeah, people sometimes just... Before criticizing anything, it is important to understand what actually is happening. Orangutans who are brought and found in rehabilitation or conservation centers have been exposed to physical or psychological damage. Either they have been found injured, or they may have been confiscated from people who were holding and mistreating them.
We had a case in 2016 where we saved an orangutan that was trafficked to Kuwait. The police caught this guy, and then they found out that he had an orangutan on the backseat. During the investigation, this guy just said that he's consuming his drugs together with the orangutans. So, yeah, it's a real story.
Some of those may have been born in captivity and actually never seen the wild. Therefore, rehabilitation has two essential dimensions. The ecological dimension is all about teaching orangutans to survive independently in the rainforest. Social competencies, on the other hand, are about connection, but also about disconnection. And you may guess it. One big problem are the effects of human contact, which have been proven to be almost irreversible. Yet rehabilitation and conservation work without human involvement seems hard to imagine. Feeding ensures wholesome nutrition, but discourages orangutans to search on their own. Caging prevents orangutans from leaving while injured and from returning into a destroyed habitat, but it may also get them used to nesting and sleeping on the ground. One thing the great red apes depend on is their learning skills and adaptability. But why learn when you can simply adapt to be nurtured and taken care of? They're pretty much like us in that manner, opportunistic. For instance, if we learn that we can make a shit ton of money by proclaiming and advertising that we're protecting an endangered species, we'd be happy to do so, without actually caring too much for the challenges and the problems, because solving them would actually mean losing money. Yeah. I just said that. Chances of seeing an orangutan in the wild are very slim. Yet, while the habitat of orangutans is declining, tourism numbers keep growing. A study concluded that orangutan tourism might generate over $6 million per year in just one area of Borneo. They also found out the majority of tourists definitely is willing to donate or pay for conservation, but not for jobs and opportunities of local communities. Essentially meaning there's more concern for the local great ape than for the local people. And here's the striking part. What seems to currently kill the most orangutans is not palm oil, nor logging, not rubber, paper, mining, or any other sort of agriculture or economy. It's people. In some cases, orangutans are hunted for food. Females are often killed to capture and sell the infants as pets. But with the time, farmers and workers also started killing orangutans, out of fear or considering them pests for their plantations. You might ask at this point, aren't there any laws to protect orangutans? And of course there are. But due to a lack of financial resources, capacities, accountability, and a lot of legal loopholes and incentives that rather encourage to make money and grow economy, the enforcement actually seems more symbolic than practical or protective.
The plantation already has a policy. Officially it's very good, like they need us to relocate orangutan, but sometimes the one who work for the plantation just want to have an easy way.
Living in a prosperous, peaceful Western country, we tend to react shocked. How can they? We consider palm oil the enemy, brands who use it villains, and farmers working on the plantations soldiers of evil. But what actually seems terrible is our understanding of the situation.
As an illustration, in 2 days, according to the worker, one orangutan can destroy at least 1 up to 2 hectares. And these people, this worker, they only earn for a month is about like $124. One worker has to be responsible to 1 up to 2 hectares. The loss that he has to pay is 115. So instead of like having another problem with the company, they just
Now explain to me why any local of Borneo should care for how much we care for orangutans. They usually don't know what an umbrella or keystone species is. They also don't know that if you remove it from an ecosystem, other species, plants as well as animals, just like resources, food sources, medicine, and actually even the stability and reliability of weather will go with it. And how or why should they know, if very often even we don't? Orangutans are dispersal agents. While traveling and feeding in the trees, they carry, lose, spit, digest, and this way disperse seeds all across the rainforest. The natural foundation, in a way, for new trees and plants to grow. The gardener of the rainforest is what they call them. And while orangutans play a key role in the rainforest plays a key role in an even bigger ecosystem. It is out of question that losing one of both will have major consequences. Orangutans show behavioral flexibility and resilience, which essentially is why they are found on farms and plantations.
About the hunting and the killing of orangutans, I mean, as I've said, this problem is connected with the habitat loss. If they have enough forest, if they have enough habitat, they will not go to the villages and look for food there.
And this is very unfortunate. Like the main threat of the orangutans is the habitat loss. But the main focus people want to contribute is about orangutan. Yeah? Mm-hmm. But they do not realize without the habitat, orangutan cannot live.
Releasing an orangutan into the wild might seem like a success, but it ain't until you can't make sure that the great ape survives. Rehabilitation and conservation centers are doing an incredible job ensuring this. Yet, they cannot simply release the animal into a random habitat. Wild populations don't mix well with formerly captive or semi-wilds. Territorial as they are, they compete for survival in their own shrinking habitat. And simply refusing palm oil won't stop the decline of the rainforest. It actually might even accelerate the process. Malaysia and Indonesia are the world's biggest producers. They depend on it. And I don't mean them, the countries, I mean them. Living in a modern society, we often believe we know a lot. Digging further and further into this matter made clear to me we are just scratching the surface. Personally, I do not believe that stopping, reducing, and renouncing will change anything. What changes political and economical actions, and with it the actual course of what is happening in our world, is what we demand. And instead of demanding comfort for us and responsibility for everyone else, how about we demand equality? Because I am as responsible for the loss of the rainforest and orangutans as every person out there clearing the land of Borneo, Sumatra, the Amazonas, or anywhere else in the world, if I don't care for the people. Because in this mess that is going on, it is not about orangutans and us. It's not about the rainforest and us or about nature and us. We are part of it. This is about us. We share 97% of the same DNA, and orangutans are one of our closest relatives. If they go extinct, we're losing a part of ourselves.